Where is the media? Where is the facts? Where is the truth? Why is it that there is no truth? Nobody's actually telling you the truth about the realities. Nobody has the guts, the courage. Why is it that the German media is silent about the reality on the ground? A country which went through racism, a country which went through a terrible Holocaust, exterminating other people, and we've got racism happening now there. And we've got Israeli genocidal policies on the ground. Why is it that people don't have the courage here to tell the truth about it? And I don't blame Jews for that. It's not Jews. It's not Judaism. This is not Judaism. This is not historical Judaism. This is not what Jews did. This is not what Einstein and Hannah Arendt thought. Historically, Jews actually were the opposite of that. Hannah Arendt fled this country, was critical of Zionism. And Einstein, this is not what Jews do or did in the past. This is a racist ideology which sounds very much like apartheid Afrikaner South Africa. In South Africa, they also call it democracy for the white. In Israel, they call it democracy for the Jews. It's done in the name of the Jews, but it's a racist ideology, which you can compare it to German racism in the 20s, and to Afrikaner racism in South Africa, and racism against blacks in America, and this is something black. Barack Obama, black president, actually is not facing up to the reality of racism. A white colony running an apartheid, creating an apartheid war, excluding people on racial grounds and religious grounds and ethnic grounds, and no one is saying anything about it. They're getting away with it. Of course, the situation in Germany perhaps is slightly much worse than the situation in Britain. I think in Britain there's more debate and more discussion and more on the public level, public opinion level. Britain is actually changing, and not the politicians, not the BBC, if you like, not the government of Brown and Blair. The elite in Britain is a bit like the elite here, totally in the same pocket of Americans, really. You know, I'm sorry. I think Angela Merkel is another poodle in the same way Blair was a poodle of Bush. It's just another poodle. But people on the ground need to, in reality, on the situation, the people need to know the truth. Unless you tell the truth about their situation in Palestine, we're not going to make progress. And I do believe that people don't really know. In reality, the media doesn't tell them. There's a conspiracy of silence about really what is the situation on the ground, and why do we end up with a large concentration in Gaza, and why the peace process is not likely to work. And why Obama hasn't got the courage to confront Netanyahu on the issue of settlements. He said he didn't want settlement. Netanyahu said, I will carry on settlements. Nothing happened. It's like business as usual. Nothing. What's new about Obama when it comes to colonization and the Palestinians? And I think the situation is incredibly dangerous in the sense that if I come 20 years from now, things could actually change for the worse. And it is urgent. It's not, the situation is not static. The reality on the ground could be altered by the Israelis. The Israelis could push people from one side of the wall to another side of the wall. They've got a lot of villages actually who are on the western side of the wall. And the Israelis hoping these villages could be pushed to the other side of the wall. And the wall is moving east and east. There are many walls actually on the West Bank. And there are threats to the Palestinians in Israel, 1.2 million Palestinians in Israel who are Israeli citizens. They've been threatened by ministers in the Israeli government. You have Netanyahu saying that you'll have another catastrophic situation if you don't keep quiet. Netanyahu is saying that the problem is not the West Bank and Gaza. The problem is actually in the Galilee. We have too many Arabs. Too many Arabs in the Galilee. We haven't finished. This idea that the 1948 is still with us. It hasn't finished. It hasn't been completed. It could be completed. We need to reduce the number of Arabs within the Jewish state to keep it Jewish. We talk about it openly. We don't hide it. I don't need to, to go to Israeli archives, to discover things. The Israelis talk openly about transfer. Really. I mean, of course, you transfer the indigenous inhabitants, the people who are the original inhabitants. You know. In Europe, we have migrations, we have gastarbeiters in Germany, we have Asians in Britain, we have migrants who are maybe in Britain about 10% of the population, but these are migrants coming to Britain. And if you talk about expatriation, if you talk about actually returning the Asians to Pakistan, that's racism. That's the extreme right. That's the BNP, if you like. These are the most racist people in Britain. Most politicians don't talk about the Asians actually going back to Pakistan. In Israel, mainstream politicians, the government, some people are going to talk about actually kicking out the indigenous people. And people are quiet about it. Lieberman comes here in Europe, they meet him, they greet him, they give him coffee and tea, instead of giving him a hit on the head. Really, instead of telling him, you're a bloody racist. I mean, how on earth you have a German foreign minister or a British foreign minister accepting someone who is actually sheer racist, who in Britain will be extreme right? Why Israel is exceptional? Why racism is tolerated? Why Israel is unique? What's unique about it? Unless you think, the Americans are exceptional, or the Jews are exceptional, or the Israelis are exceptional. Racism is racism. And I think we, the Palestinians, should acknowledge Jewish suffering, and we should acknowledge the Holocaust. We're not responsible for the Holocaust, the German Holocaust. We didn't do it. We're not part of it. But we should admit it. We should acknowledge it. We should say this is something which you have to understand. And you have to be against, and you have to be against racism. I think this is something actually we, Muslims and Arabs, should be saying, look, we shouldn't deny it. But it should not be used against us. The German government should not feel guilty and supported Israeli racist policies in the name of the Holocaust. And we suffered. Indirectly, we paid for it. By the way, the German people didn't pay for the Holocaust. We paid for it. The German government of Adenauer in 1952 gave lots of money to Ben Gurion, to the Israelis, the Israeli government. Lots of money went to Israel from Germany. The Germans contributed, German taxpayers contributed to the Jewish state. Now, is this really for the Holocaust victims? It didn't go for the Holocaust. It actually went to the Israeli government. The Israeli government used billions of pounds. Israel in 1952 was bankrupt, by the way. There was very little money in Israel. The Americans didn't actually give the Israelis lots of money then. It's not now. Now the Americans give lots of billions. In 1952, it was the Germans who actually bailed out the Jewish state. They bailed it out. And the money went to the defense, and they went to settlements, and they went to settling land belonging to the Palestinian refugees. In a way, you could argue that the German state actually contributed to the Palestinian catastrophe indirectly.